Everything must change.
Str8out University, Big John is the host with the plan. Time to wake the sleeping giant that lives in every man. Forget the ordinary path, that blueprint's outdated. We building legends here, totally self-created. You need the 4 pillars for total fulfillment. Money, muscle, frame in the game, that's the mission. Master your finances, forge your body, your mindset. Level up your influence, make them all respect. Yet, stop settling for a life that's just a faded dream. Time to build your empire, make your own world shine supreme. This is the goal, let's get to work. Yeah, Str8out University.
What is going on, everybody? How's everybody doing today? I hope you're having a great you had a great weekend, and happy 4th of July. We are going to be going off the cuff today. I just got some things that I wanted to say today. It'll probably be a short podcast. And well, more likely it's going to be a short podcast, but just wanted to get some things off my chest, getting into the situation with the 4th of July and the America's 250th birthday as a nation. Brought up a lot of emotions with people, brought up a lot of things of people saying, hey, America isn't a great country. America isn't this, America isn't that. And, I had a lot of discussions with people to talk about some of those things. And it was rather disconcerting. I'm telling you that it was a lot of discussions about people focusing on negative things that the country has endured. We've gone through some very difficult times in this country. And, I don't understand this, when you go through anything as a person, you're going through, you're going to go through things that are going to be thick and thin. You're going to go through some reflections. You're going to go through some stuff that was like, yeah, you know what, that was bad. But, we're all allowed to make decisions that we later regret and say, okay, well, I'm not going to do that again. But, we all act like, America has never and never should have gone through any of those kinds of things. Now, granted, we on a grand scheme of things, when you look back on it, it's so easy to say, well, we probably could have done this or we probably could have done that. But, nobody and nothing is perfect. And, I think that this brought up a lot of discussions with people who are very unhappy with the direction in which the current administration is going to. And there's nothing wrong with that, because I can tell you honestly, and if you're honest with yourself, there has never been an administration that has been 100% right in the direction that it has gone. I'm sure we can take any group of people, whether it's Democrat or Republican, and we have not agreed on certain things. There are cases that have been gone through in the Supreme Court that we agree and we disagree on, but it doesn't make it bad. I mean, it doesn't make it, just because we disagree with something doesn't mean that it's the end of the world as we know it. And we have to stop acting that way. We need to stop acting like Chicken Little and the sky is falling every 5 minutes, because the sky isn't falling. And I talked a little bit about that last time. And, it's a little disheartening when you have people who live in this country. And, I'll be honest with you, and it's my feeling that the United States is the greatest country there currently is right now, with all the diversity and all of the good things and all of the bad things that we've gone through. This is the reason that nobody is trying to defect to China, the reason that nobody is trying to defect to Israel. I mean, well, I shouldn't say Israel, but trying to defect this country to another country. Think about that. There's not boatloads of people trying to get into Russia. There's not boatloads of people trying to get into, to North Korea. So I don't understand when people sit there and say, this is the America, it's terrible. Well, look, if you're not going to fight to try to make America better, and what I mean by fight is I'm not talking about let's go over there and let's attack the police, or let's attack government agents, or let's attack people physically. I'm saying, look it, we have a system set up. It's the system that we currently have. You have the power of a vote. You can vote people in who believe like you, and we could move forward to better whatever this is, whatever we have. Look, it is the only thing. Hey, what's up, Luz? How you doing? Miss Chavez? Love to see you on. We have to look at it from that perspective, because we need to stop acting like America isn't what it is. And we need to start looking at what America is. Are there things that we could do better? Of course. Of course. I'm willing to bet you if I took a look at yourself and I took a look at your history, I'm sure I could find a whole lot of things that you fucked up on, that you probably regret, and that you'll never do again. But in order to become a better group, we have to go through rights and wrongs. We have to be able to see what happened and what went wrong and fix that, and then continue the path of what went right. So, I find it funny how we have politicians who consistently will tell us to go out and fight. And this is my party, my Democratic Party. They will sit there and tell you, go out there and fight. And they make it sound like they want you to be physical about your demonstration, but yet not one of them is in that fight. Not one of them puts themselves in the fray for that. And I find that curious on both sides, though. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's not just my party. It's not just the Democratic Party. It's also the Republican Party. They say a lot of things that are inflammatory also, but I don't see them in there. I don't see them on the I don't see them on the ground. I don't see them. What is that saying? The boots on the ground. I don't see that. What I see is people and a higher status. When there's a multimillionaire telling me how they align with me, I don't know, man. I really doubt that you align with me for the simple reason is you're a millionaire. You're a multimillionaire. And I don't think that you open your door when you get up in the morning and you have your cup of coffee and you walk outside your front door and you open your front door, what's in front of you? I don't believe we have the same view. I don't believe that when I open my door, I see the same things that you do. Okay, so don't tell me how you align with me when you really don't, because you don't even understand where I live. Okay, and that's the truth of it. We want to be better, and I'm not saying that they can't be better. And a person who earns their money and moves out of the neighborhood and becomes, in a bigger house, better neighborhood. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have that kind of progression. But don't tell me that, you've been a millionaire for years and years and you align with somebody who's making $50,000 a year. I don't believe that you align with that person anymore. But, again, I find it funny that these very same people will make such a plea toward how, telling me that I'm oppressed because you understand my fight. No, you don't. You don't understand my fight. I don't live in a gated community. I don't have guards guarding me. Okay. When I go to the liquor store to go pick up a soda and I got to deal with the crackhead who's hitting me up for money and then starts to get aggressive because I don't give him $1. Yo, you ain't seeing that same person as I am. All right. So, quit telling me that you do, because you don't. All right. Well, let me show you this video. I thought that this video was pretty good for the simple reason is it does show some of the hypocrisy in these things and talks about how these people who all have that same argument about, hey, that they align with me, how they understand what I'm doing. And let me tell you, this is basic travel here. Here you go. Let me pull this video up.
Walking off of that private jet, look closely. You know who that is? That is New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a.k.a. AOC. But that's not all. Look, there's more people coming off of that jet. There's some guy carrying her bags. There's some other guy carrying, I guess, more of her bags. There's some woman carrying more. There are a lot of bags on this plane. But look who comes out next. Who see that guy? That's Bernie Sanders. That's Bernie Sanders from Vermont, the socialist from Vermont. who hates millionaires and billionaires. AOC and Bernie Sanders, who are arguably two of the most anti-capitalist socialists in this country, not to mention the government, were flying on a private jet back from, get this, their Fight Oligarchy tour, where they rail against rich millionaires and billionaires.
Yeah, that's the thing that I'm talking about. How is it that these people fly on a private jet talking about, green, the green, you gotta stop this, you gotta stop doing these things, but yet they do everything that they rail against, that they tell you what we're railing against. And that's the problem with politics today. And they're not the only ones. Don't get me wrong. That's just a clip that I found. But look, all of these guys, the Republican Party does it. They also do that too. Okay. But these people talk about, like the guy was saying, the oligarchy. We should fight against the oligarchy. Well, they are part of the oligarchy. They're multimillionaires, and yet they're going to tell me how I need to stand up against them. Who, you? I need to stand up against you? Bernie Sanders, he owns multi-mansions, okay? Multiple mansions worth multiple millions of dollars. And yet you're going to tell me that, I live in my apartment or something, and how, I need to stand up and get out there and I need to give him $25 for his fight against the oligarchy. Shit, man. Come on, think about that for just a second. Are we really fighting the oligarchy, or are we fighting you? Again, people constantly telling us, and when I mean about us, I mean us as people who do not have the same means as them, telling us that we're oppressed. Oh, I know you're oppressed, and I know you're this, and we need to go fight those people. Well, those people are like you. That's who those people are. Let me show you this other video, because this is the audacity in which people work with under for the simple reason is, look, a little story. I was having breakfast, drinking my coffee. This woman starts talking to me. We talk about a little bit of politics and stuff, and then she starts telling me like, "Oh wow, you're Hispanic, blah blah blah, and how do you feel about what's happening to you and your people?" And I'm all like, "Well, what the hell's happening to me and my people? What are you talking about?" "Oh, well, ICE is coming and they're taking your people away, and they're kidnapping your people, and they're doing this, and they're murdering them in the streets." And I'm all like, "What the fuck is this lady talking about? None of my people are being taken off the streets. What are you talking about? Do I have cousins? Do I have cousins that maybe don't have papers?" Honestly, I don't even know. I don't think so. I don't think that I have any cousins that don't. I don't. I don't know. I don't know. I don't talk about them, but I do remember when I was a kid, when I was like small, young, I do remember conversations in the family talking about fixing their papers. And I do remember conversations, I live in the 805, which is a predominantly an agricultural area. Who didn't hear about La Migra picking up somebody? Who didn't hear about that? We all heard about that as kids. But, I remember the conversations of people fixing their paperwork and so forth. So, and I do know stories of family members who brought people from Mexico on work visas and fixed their paperwork. So, I don't know, but like I said, I lived in an agricultural area where, the kids next to me were in school, their parents got busted and sent back, or they had an uncle sent back, and we would have that kind of conversation. So, but again, it's people trying to tell us how oppressed we are, which is completely untrue. And then I'm looking at this woman who's telling me this, and she just so happens to be a YT person, and an older lady at that, and she's telling me how oppressed I am and how I don't even understand. I can't comprehend how oppressed I am and my people are, and yet I'm looking at her because I'm trying not to judge her as I'm judging her, because that's what I do. And she looks like a well-to-do lady. She looks like she's well off. She's well-spoken. She was talking about, when she went to college and so forth. So I'm imagining, and then she told me in the area in which she lived, where I currently live, and she lived in a very affluent neighborhood. And I'm sitting there thinking, you probably never even really, aside from the servants that you had, because that's what she said, the fact that you say your servants is probably telling of who you are and where you came from. So I find it funny that those people are the ones that talk about we need to fight oppression, but yet you're not oppressed. Do you really know what oppression is, or is it what you think oppression is? But let me bring up this video because I find this happens quite often when I see people talking about this, about how we need to fight the powers that be. So let's get into it.
Very much living a hard life. These California Democrats going through it, man. Maybe we should help them seek asylum in a country like China. Check out this sign. It says "Fight Tyranny," and these people are very oppressed. They live in a multi-million-dollar house on the coast of California.
Again, here we are dealing with people who sit there and tell us how oppressed we are. We need to fight tyranny, but you're a multimillionaire. We need to fight tyranny. Meanwhile, you live in $1 million house, a multi-million-dollar house on the beach. Now, we all know, we pass by those houses and we go, damn, you got to have a lot of money to live there. But yet these are the people that are talking about fight the tyranny, fight the tyranny. Man, I'm telling you, we some confused people. How confused do we have to be? How confused? For the simple reason is we're talking about fighting things that we don't know anything about. And I find it comical because we don't talk about it enough. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. If I'm in a room and I'm talking about like, damn, man, I just put $87 of gas in my tank because I was on empty. I didn't fill it up at halfway. I was on empty. I had to put $87 of gas in my tank. And I'm like, damn, that shit hurt. And then I got another person standing next to me and I'm looking at him and he's got, he's earning 5 times more than I do. And I know he earns 5 times more than I do. And he's got himself a Bentley and a Jaguar. And he lives in a very nice house in a very great neighborhood. And he's telling me like, yeah, man, that $87, that was rough. Bro, what do you know about that $87? Now, I'm not saying you can't have money problems and be rich at the same time. But I am saying that, I don't think that pinches you harder than it pinches me. But, these are the people. These are the people that tell us how oppressed we are and tell us that the sky is falling. And they say that there's no kings, but yet the kings are the ones telling us how oppressed we are. Like here in California, man, we just do the most horrible things to ourselves. And then we blame everybody else for it. Like the additional 2 cents on gas tax that just happened July 1st. And, we did that ourselves. And then we're complaining about how gas is so expensive, but we do it to ourselves, man. We got to think about some of those things. I want to move on to the next topic. And this topic, I'm going to be honest with you. I was kind of pissy about this. The other day I was speaking to a, well, you know what? Let me play this clip first. And then I'll explain to you a little bit about what I mean, because, I had a conversation with somebody and I was all in my feelings about this conversation that I was having with this gentleman. And I didn't understand it, but it kind of rolls back to who we are as people in the United States and from other places. So let me bring this up.
We got to prove to the Mexicans how Mexican we are, and we got to prove to the Americans how American we are. We got to be more Mexican than the Mexicans and more American than the Americans, both at the same time. It's exhausting.
Yeah. Let me give you a little bit of background story. I was talking to this guy from Brazil, and he was telling me like, hey, are you Mexican from Mexico or are you Mexican from here? I said, oh, I was born here. And he goes, oh yeah. He goes, you guys are strange people. And I'm like, oh, what do you mean strange people? He says, you're very prideful. Like, Brazilians are prideful also. You're very prideful and you're very, into your culture. You're very, you're dominant in that respect. But you guys act really weird about America. And I was like, well, okay. So now in my head, I'm thinking, are you talking shit? So now I'm like, I'm starting to get a little defensive. So I'm like, all right, go ahead, explain. Give it to me, explain. And he tells me, you know, Mexicans talk about how much they're into their heritage and how much they're into, you know, where they come from, and they're always flying the Mexican flag, even though they're Americans, born in America. And he's all, you know, what do you consider yourself? And I said, I'm American. And he goes, right, you're American. He goes, but you're not, you know, are your parents from, you know, Mexico? And I said, no, both of my parents are from here. And he just goes, okay. He goes, well, okay, so you're American. He goes, see, like my children were born, his children were born here in the United States, but when they go back to Brazil, they're not considered Brazilians. They're considered Americans. And even though he now is an American citizen, when he goes back to Brazil, even though he was born in Brazil, they consider him American, not American Brazilian or Brazilian American. They consider him American because he is now an American citizen. And I was like, all right, give it to me. Give me a little more. And he just says, I don't understand how, when you go to Mexico, what do they consider you in Mexico? I said, American. He goes, they don't consider you Mexican when you go to Mexico, right? I said, no. And he's all, then why do so many of your countrymen, and that's how he put it, your countrymen claim Mexico as their pride and not America, even though they're born in America or they're American citizens now. And I was like, good point. Good point. I don't like it. I'm pissed off about it, and I'm kind of pissy about it because, you know, it's a hard fact, especially right now, you know, with the World Cup thing happening. Look, I'll be honest with you. I don't watch soccer. I don't care for soccer. But you know what? I'm all for the U.S. team. Okay? I'll be honest with you. I'm all for the U.S. team. And, you know, I'm not actively rooting for Mexico. I'm not actively rooting for, I'm not actively rooting for any country really, other than, well, I mean, the U.S. team is in it. I want them to win. They're from America. I want them to win. But I'm not actively recruiting for any or rooting for anybody. As a matter of fact, a couple of years ago, somebody had asked me, hey, you know, who are you rooting for, you know, in the World Cup? I said, well, America. And then she's all like, oh, okay, wow. Have you ever been into soccer? I said, no, maybe a couple of years ago, I got into a little bit of soccer, I believe when they had it in Dubai. And I was rooting for, I believe it was Germany. And she was like, Germany? What are you rooting for Germany for? I said, well, they're the favorites to win. I don't know. I win with the odds, man, the Vegas odds. I wasn't rooting. I'm not thinking about it that way. But, you know, this guy was telling me, and I wish I could remember his name now, but, you know, he was very poignant about how we as Americans, even though we have our heritage falls back to Mexico, he didn't understand how do you do that? You know, how do you actively participate in something for another country that's not your country? And I was just kind of like, well, you know, look, there's a lot of political things in there. And I'm going to be honest with you. I was doing a lot of talk to cover for the fact that I was kind of pissy about what he was saying. And I really was. I was in my feelings about it because I was kind of pissy that he was calling into question my pride in my country. But he was right about what he was saying. And I had never really thought about it like that. But I think about it that way now. I really do think about it that way. I'm not trying to get into, you know, whose country's better, whose country's worse. I'm just saying, look, I'm from America. I'm proud of this country. I'm proud of this land. I will defend this land. I believe in this. And if there's something that we need to fix, we should fix it and stop acting like little bitches about everything and crying and pissing and the sky is falling, because it really isn't. And, you know, I listened to that guy, and even though at the moment I wanted to slap the shit out of him for what he was telling me, because it hurt, because it was the truth. But I do feel that ultimately in the end, I thought about it and I became a better person thinking about it, because as I thought about it later on, he's actually right about what he was saying. And then now that we are heading toward, you know, or that we were coming toward the 4th of July, and all of this divisions things came up again. And I was just kind of like, wow, that really brought me back to that conversation. And I was just kind of blown away with the fact that that guy's right. Look, my kids are American. Okay, I'm proud of them. My brother served in the military. I'm proud of him, and I'm proud of the service. I had some uncles that served in the military, and I'm proud of them also. I respect their decisions, and even they have problems with what happens in today's time, from from Bush to Clinton to Obama to Trump to Biden. Everybody has a problem with our leaders. It doesn't make it an end all be all. It just means that we need to use our voices to get our voice out there about our displeasures about what's happening, and we need to move forward as a people together. Because this whole bullshit of saying, hey, America's terrible, but yet you're here. America, this place is a disaster, but yet you're here. And I'm not one to tell people, if you don't like it, leave. I'm not one to tell people that, but I'm saying you have choices. If you don't want to help fix a problem that you see, then get the hell out of the way. Get out of the way. I don't think that you should be out there protesting on the street if you're not helping to try to fix a problem. Because your voice is not your voice on the street. Just like if I'm going to get a ticket from a police officer, and I know that I did not run that red light. That light was green, turning yellow as I was crossing through the intersection. On that corner, on that street is not the time for me to argue. I'm to gather my evidence and take it to court. That is where I fight it. This is where we need to fight that. I'm not saying that you don't need to protest or you shouldn't protest. I believe you should protest. But don't protest like a dumbass. Okay, don't get out there and start wrecking shit. Don't get out there and start being a damn fool. Look, if we don't like the immigration policies, fine, let's talk about fixing them. Don't get out there and start, burning cars and man, we doing dumb shit. But, I do want to talk about, some other issues. I'm trying not to get too political, but I just wanted to bring that up because that guy really did make me pissed off because he put it in my face. If I really am proud of who I am and where I come from, then I need to be flying the American flag. You know why? Because that's where I am and that's where I come from. And because this country is the country giving me the opportunity. And that's why everybody tries to get into this country and nobody's trying to get into South Korea. North Korea. Nobody's trying to get into Russia. Nobody's trying to go get into China. And nobody's trying to get into any of them other shitty countries. All right. And I call them shitty countries because you know what? I believe my country, the United States, is the best country. And I'm proud of this country. And I'm not happy about everything that we do. But that's why we have a voice to do that fight. But let me bring up this other video. And I believe this is going to be my last video of the day. And I want to talk about some of these things because I believe that there's so many things happening with us as people. And I think that we're dulling out as people. And I'm going to say it. Look, I did a video not too long ago about the education system here in the United States, as well as the 805, which is bad. It's bad. The education system's pretty bad. We got a lot of people, and don't get me wrong, I know some people in the education system, and they are beautiful people. They do so much work, but it's like fighting against that tide. It's like fighting against that 100-mile-an-hour wind. It is so hard to fight uphill that way, and you just sit there, and your leaders are just crappy leaders, and I think we all agree on that. But do me a favor first. Check us out on this. Do the like, comment, and subscribe. Definitely give us a like. Those of you that are in the chat, stop ninja watching me. One of my videos got to 700 views. And, I had very, very little likes. Look, just do me a favor. Hit the like button. I appreciate it for the simple reason is that it costs you nothing. And I'm definitely trying to grow the channel a little better and a little bit more. So I definitely can use your help. And check us out on YouTube. If you're not on YouTube, we're definitely on Instagram, and we're going to be moving toward more of the YouTube. And you know what? Thank you, Sharon and Miss Chavez. Definitely proud to be an American. All right. So let me move on to the next thing. I want to talk about how we're dulling out our people. And, look, kids today, sadly, kids today are stupid as hell. It's a damn shame. But I look at the parents. Parents are dumb as shit, too. And that's just my observation. And being in the public school system for 32 years, that's just my observation. I'm very astute in what I watch and what I see and who I hear. And I don't just make, I don't make rash judgments. But let me tell you something. We're in trouble and we need to fix it, because we don't need our kids going out into the world not having a good education or not even understanding basic things. So let's watch this next video. It's not necessarily about education, but it is about, our people not doing right for the young ones. All right, let me bring this up.
The job of a parent is to mirror the environment the child will mature into, so that when they get there, they have the software that is an appropriate match for it. And a lot of mental health issues come down to a mismatch between the software that your developmental environment produced and the environment you actually live in. And that can happen.
That's why you shouldn't be nicer to your children than the world is. In fact, you're doing them a disservice. That's the devouring mother from the psychoanalytic perspective.
The job.
Yeah, that's heavy. That's heavy. I do believe that as parents, I've said this before on many occasions, that as a parent, of course, you want your children to have more and have more opportunities and be afforded more, things than you were as you were growing up. But at some point, when are we hurting our kids and not helping our kids? At what point are we being detrimental to their growth because we coddle them way too much? I myself am guilty of such a thing. And I'm glad that I corrected what I was doing. And I know some people who personally know me were like, yeah, you're a harsh person. I'm not harsh. I'm very loving how I raised my children. But there was an intent in it, because the way I looked at it was, the world's not going to give them a break. So why would I show them all the breaks? Okay, all I'm doing is creating a weak person who's going to be taken advantage of when they get out into the world. And that's not my job as a father. My job as a father is to create a good, morally sound man or woman who's going to be a functional person in society, in a net positive and not a net negative. And what I mean by net positive is that they're going to go out into the world and they're going to produce something, whether it's, I don't care if it's good vibes. I don't care. Just be a positive person and not this negative individual who doesn't do anything but just, I have this saying that I tell people: you want a great ideal, you want a brilliant ideal. If you want to kill an ideal, you bring it to a negative person, and they'll kill that ideal no matter how good that ideal is, because that's just who they are. And, we got to stop doing those things. We need to be honest with ourselves and saying, hey, we need children to produce like we produce, for the simple reason is that that's what's going to keep us going here in the United States. But what Jordan Peterson said there is actually really profound, because we don't produce kids that are able to handle simple things. Look, we have the participation trophies. Now, granted, I'm a Gen Xer. You don't get a participation trophy. In the immortal words of a great poet named Nelly. Yeah, I want to say it was Nelly. 2 is not a winner, and 3 nobody remembers. It's all about being number 1. I don't get a participation trophy because I showed up, because I just showed up. Chris Rock also said it best. When people have low expectations, who are you creating? The bar should not be so low that it's non-existent to walk over. We need things in this world that make us stronger. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to produce. And you know what? We hurt our children when we do that. And we need to stop doing that. And we need to start being honest with not only our children, but we need to start being honest with people. And I say that with all due respect for this reason. We have, in today's time, we have a very good friend of mine named Jess from the Unpacked Mindset says this. It is the victim Olympics out there. The victim Olympics. And I'm going to tell you right now, I know some gold medal winners because all they do is bitch, piss, moan, and cry about everything. Everything. This is this. Oh my God. They didn't offer to put my beer in a bag. They didn't offer me a bag. That's racist. What? Oh, they didn't, oh, this person, did you see how they acted toward me when I told them, I came in late today? Did you see how they rolled their eyes at me when I told them that, I came in late because, the mailman didn't show up on time or the worlds weren't aligned? I took a test and it was, what was it? Culturally biased. And I'm like, who are you talking to? It wasn't culturally biased. It's because you're fucking stupid. That's the problem. You're dumb. And they look at the clutch the pearls moment. And it's like, man, they look at me and they're like,
how dare you?
And it's like, man, you got to stop being so fucking soft about everything. You got to stop it. But we need to tell people that. We need to tell people, yeah, that's bullshit. No, that's not true. No, that's a lie. And if they sit there and do that, I don't want to talk to you. Well, then don't talk to me about dumb shit. Because I'm going to start calling you out. And I get it. It's not comfortable sometimes. But I would rather be known for being honest than known for being a liar. And I'm not going to lie for you. Look, if you say something retarded, I'm sorry. You gotta thank you, Sharon. Yeah, you got to suck it up. Suck it up, Buttercup, because you know what? You might as well load up on the Paxil because life's going to be real sad. Okay? Nothing's going to get better for you. All right? Get the fuck over it and move forward. Because if you don't, life's not going to be good. Life's not going to be fun. All it's going to be is just headaches because you know what? It's not when life kicks you. It's not if life kicks you. It's when life kicks you. And it's what you do after. Can you get up and keep going? Because if you're going to just curl up and cry like a little biatch, life's going to be sad. And I got people that I know that are close to me that curl up and cry. And it bothers the hell out of me because they have so much potential. I believe in them. I know it's in there. And they're having a hard time reaching down and pulling that out because everybody validates their bullshit. Get up, go to work, do some exercise, walk around, stretch your arms out, do whatever you got to do to get out of your funk, and move forward in a positive way. Because let me tell you, nobody wants to hang out with a fucking person who all they do is bitch, piss, and moan for everything. But like I said, we need to stop hurting our kids, but we also need to stop hurting the adults that are next to us. For the simple reason is, I can't deal with listening to people cry about their bullshit. And I got a lot of people that are around me that will tell me things like, man, you're a little rough on people. And it's like, well, I'm sorry that the truth hurts. If I tell you something that's truthful and it hurts you, it's called growing pains. Okay? You're growing a little because see, that hurt is helping you understand that you're full of shit. And sometimes you're a dumbass. What's wrong with that? Just trying to tell you the truth. But do me a favor. I actually have, let me see, you know what? I have something around here. I have a doctor coming on next week. It's going to be a pre-recorded show. It's the first time I'm going to do that. I'm going to air a pre-recorded show. Excuse me. Next Sunday. Dr. Kyle Stevens, he's going to be coming on. We're going to be talking about things that we have to be looking for, but especially as men. I'm not going to lie to you. We, as a man, we rub dirt on it and just keep going. And only because we don't really want to make we don't really want to make the appointments to go see the doctor because we feel that it's just too much bullshit. If I'm going to see you in 3 weeks, I'm either going to be cured or dead. So fuck it. What am I going to do? And if it becomes that bad, I'll just go to urgent care. But that's not how we're supposed to look at our medical conditions and what we're supposed to look for, especially myself, getting a little bit older. I'm 56 years old now. And, I have to look for things that, I didn't even know that I should have been looking for in my 20s, my 30s, 40s, and 50s. And now here I am. I'm at 56 years old, and it's like, man, I'm barely starting to understand what I'm supposed to look for. Like, this pain isn't normal. That thing isn't normal. This thing is normal. But that's for me and my doctor. But, I wanted to make sure that this doctor who is into private care, and I think that that's a really great thing because he kind of moved away from insurance, the regular thing of insurance, because it restricted him. So, I thought this guy had a great story, and I really wanted to bring that in. So next Sunday, we're going to have that show to talk about, what are you talking about, Sharon? Jennifer, thank you. Really? And Jennifer, I got to get you on because we got to talk about this, but I want to talk about Jennifer. She has a book out, The Villain. My God, I apologize profusely, Jennifer. Villain Syndrome, I believe what it's called. I still haven't read it yet, but I do plan on reading it because I want to have you on to talk about this thing. I think it's an amazing story in looking at that kind of plight in relationships. But let me get back to this thing. I do want to talk about the doc, Kyle Stevenson, coming in next Sunday, and looking forward to it. I'm definitely I'm sorry, Jennifer, you got me thrown off over here. I definitely want to get into that because there's a lot of things as men that we do not talk about because it doesn't feel right for us, because we're always told things, and we're always told things like suck it up. And I get that, but there's some things that we really do need to talk about, and, we need to stop pushing things off. And I think that men in general need to see a doctor and make sure that we know to take care of our health, because we do say this thing, I'm willing to die for my family. I'm willing to die for my children. Then why aren't we willing to take care of our health so we can be here longer for our children and our families? Because if we love them that much that we would be willing to lay down our life for them, we need to be willing enough to go to the doctor and make sure we're okay. So that's the message that I want to send for next time. And again, hit us on the YouTube, hit the smash, the like, and the notification button. So this way you are notified whenever we drop a new video. I can't wait to bring on some people. And Jennifer, actually, I'm going to send you some stuff because I have an ideal for you, a show ideal that I want you to be part of. So I'm definitely going to be reaching out to you. So thanks again. I appreciate everybody checking us out. Like, subscribe, comment. Make sure you hit that like button, please, for the simple reason is it does help the algorithm in understanding that we are putting out context that is worth watching and listening for. And you guys take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next week. Appreciate you. Peace out.
Everything must change.
Yeah, Str8out University, the syllabus begins. Check the complex method that separates the men from the kids. We building with 4 pillars. Study the architecture, the lessons in the verses, not just the lecture. See the mind for the money, the muscle is the proof. That global frame is wisdom from the concrete to the roof. And the game is pure knowledge that defines your every action. A strategic satisfaction for a chemical reaction. It's a blueprint for power, not just a simple acquisition. The formula for greatness, a scholarly position. Str8out University, yeah, the lessons in session. Str8out University.